How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Will the NFL have a preseason in 2020, and who will it benefit in regards to the quarterback competition? Today, in episode number 55 of Uncut, we're going to be breaking down everything that is new in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and how it is affecting the NFL preseason. I am your host, Chris Malpe, and today I'm joined with my co-host, Parth Shaw. Parth, how's it going, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Had a little late night last night. Was listening to the new Juice WRLD album, Rest in Peace to a Legend. Here we are recording another Bears video.
Absolutely. Legends truly do never die, but today we're here to talk about two quarterbacks, hopefully one that can go down as a Bears legend, but it quite well doesn't look like it. So, just to talk a little bit about the preseason, about a week ago, we're recording this, I believe, on June 11th. No, it's June 10th. It's on June 10th right now. Around the 4th of July, the NFL did announce that we will only have 2 games this preseason, but the NFL Players Association board voted on a conference call this week in favor of not playing any preseason games ahead of the 2020 season. How does this affect the Bears, you may ask? Nick Foles, Mitchell Trubisky, also guys like Kevin Tolliver, Jaylen Johnson, Tashawn Gibson, Deion Bush were all slated to be in competitions that were going to be heavily affected by the preseason games. And Matt Nagy was someone that preached that basically since the beginning, that the preseason reps were going to be very important in 2020. That being said, the NFL does believe that the collective bargaining agreement that they signed with the NFLPA will still allow for a preseason. So today we are here to talk about Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles and how the preseason may or may not affect the both of them. One would assume that if there is a preseason, it will hopefully bode in Foles' favor because obviously he's the new guy coming in. He does need to gain chemistry with his receivers. But that being said, no preseason. Mitch may be the one suiting up week 1 against the Lions at Ford Field. Just a quick update on Mitchell Trubisky before we do get into this podcast, this episode of Uncut. Footwork and release are the 2 main things that he has been focusing on this offseason, and that is per Daniel Greenberg of Shy Sports Update. And we all know it, but Mitch has been absolutely relentless this offseason. That has been confirmed by a source. We've seen him working very hard, and I'm sure Foles is working hard as well. Both guys vying for the spot. Parth, I want to ask you first off, would Foles be better off with or without the preseason?
I think he needs the preseason. For Nick Foles to come in and not have any preseason reps, especially with the Bears, he's got no chemistry with any of the wide receivers here in Chicago. Yes, he does know the playbook, but I think at the end of the day, if you don't got chemistry with your players, it's going to be really hard to just go out there and go against the Lions and play week 1 action.
Yeah, I'm going to absolutely agree with you, and I'm going to say the same answer for Trubisky. I think it also very much so matters for Trubisky in regards to winning the job. He's going to have to be pretty much perfect if he wants to win the job, but if Nick Foles can come out and play like he did in 2013 when he threw for 2,891 passing yards and 27 touchdowns, those preseason reps are going to be very valuable. I mean, he had a quarterback rating of 119.2 throughout that season in the same exact playbook or a very similar playbook that the Bears are running here in 2020. So that being said, I'm going to say that Foles is very much better off with the preseason. So let's hope that those 2 games do stay. Obviously, it seems like the players don't want it, just risking the spread of COVID-19. But that being said, I think it's very important for both quarterbacks in the Bears situation. So, Parth, I want to ask you, obviously, if there were no preseason games, it seems like this competition is leaning a little bit Trubisky's way. But do you think he's still better off with the preseason reps?
I do think so. In his rookie year, when he actually did play in the preseason, he was phenomenal. I mean, yes, he did play against a lot more second or third stringers, but I think preseason reps help any player out there at the end of the day. Last year we saw him come out and be a little rusty, or even in 2018, the first couple games he was a little rusty, and then he got it going against I was about to say Milwaukee Bucks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think preseason helps both quarterbacks, and I think Nick Foles needs it more than him. But at the end of the day, Mitchell Trubisky does need preseason games, just once again to get used to the playing football again. It's been a long break of just not having football, and I'm pretty sure they're installing a lot more new plays this year, and it would just be much better for both quarterbacks, and especially Trubisky, who's the more inexperienced guy in the system, I'd say.
Absolutely. We all know Mitchell Trubisky is someone who leads comeback drives, 6 game-winning drives in his career. It was a down year in 2019 for sure, though. Down about 200 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, also down only 2 interceptions. He played 14 games in 2018, 15 in 2019. Obviously, we know that he did dislocate his shoulder and was struggling from that for a long time. But that being said, Mitch does need to improve. His quarterback rating down 12 points from 2018 to 2019, so he's looking to get as much reps as possible, I think, in both of our eyes, if he wants to win this job. Parth, I want to ask you, going back to Foles, obviously the NFLPA seems like they are vying for no preseason games, so I want to ask you, can the new guy in Nick Foles win this job solely in training camp?
I don't think so. It's really tough to give it to Nick Foles without not playing in preseason games. Because training camp, there's not much hitting going on. I doubt there's much even. I doubt even. I don't know if there's even going to be a training camp. But with the way everything's going right now, training camp keeps getting delayed. Hopefully, there's a training camp. But Nick Foles definitely. I don't think he has a chance to win without any preseason games at all.
It is worth noting that Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky will be splitting snaps in that training camp. So it's very important. Foles, obviously the Super Bowl 52 champion and MVP. I think he's got a lot coming in. A lot of people within Hallis Hall thinking he is going to win this competition. But that being said, the preseason definitely would help him a lot. So, Parth, we've answered these questions before on the podcast, but I'm going to loop them back in here just to talk about it for a little bit. If we do get preseason games and a full training camp, who's stepping out there week 1 against the Lions?
Mitchell Trubisky. I really think he's been putting in a lot of work this offseason. He's like you just said, he's been working on his footwork and his release. He also partnered up with Spear Training and fixed his shoulder, his dislocated shoulder, and he had some structural issue in his throwing arm as well, which they fixed with a lot of rehab and stuff. So I think Mitchell Trubisky's bound for a big year if he can just get it off going well, and no better team to play for him than Detroit Lions. And we've all known he's had much success against Detroit, especially in the last couple of years with Matt Nagy.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to Mitchell Trubisky is consistency, and we're going to need to see that off the bat. I don't think that Mitch is going to win this job if he comes into training camp and is incredibly inconsistent. But that being said, he has been relentless this offseason, and he's looking to put up some numbers. But that being said, if there's a full training camp and a preseason, I'm going to give it to Nick Foles to start week 1. There's already been reports from guys within the organization that know a lot, like Adam Hogue, Adam Jans, Aaron Lemming, that have said in Hallis Hall, the belief is that it will be Foles. Higher-ups on the Bears want it to be Foles. So I think if he can gain that chemistry with the receivers, you mentioned earlier how important chemistry is and how Mitch already has that, and obviously you see him practicing with guys like Cole Kmet, Anthony Miller, Allen Robinson, Cody Whitehair. If Foles can come in there, get his first team reps, and get the guys to trust him, I do believe it will be Foles, unless Trubisky is entirely consistent. But that being said, looking at the flip side of this, and I'm going to let you answer this one second, Parth, I think if there are no preseason games, I would probably give the edge to Mitch, and I would probably give him 2 weeks to be able to show that he can do it consistently. Our first 2 games are against the Detroit Lions and the New York Giants. We saw Mitch beat the New York Giants last year at home in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it's a home game again this year. But that being said, Mitch is going to have the opportunity, if Foles doesn't get the opportunity in the preseason, to go prove that it's still his team and this job is still his. So I think if there's no preseason games, I'm going to give it to Mitch. I do think preseason games bode towards Foles because it gives you live game action and more time to be able to build that chemistry with your receivers. I do hope that there will be 2 preseason games, but that being said, if there aren't, I'm going to give the edge to Trubisky. What do you think? I know what you're saying already.
Yeah, everyone, if you've been following the podcast, I'm the owner of Trubisky Nation on Instagram, so I got to back my boy Mitchell Trubisky in this situation. But if there were no preseason games, I'd give Mitch around 4 games to prove himself. I think it would be going back to like that Mike Glennon situation that I don't really like talking about at all. That horrific situation that we went through with him. But yeah, I think Mitchell Trubisky gets 4 games to prove what he's got for the team. I think he'll be on a short leash, especially because everything's going on and stuff.
Yeah, definitely, But Parth, I must mention, can we both agree that a preseason happening probably bodes in Nick Foles' favor?
You know, it's tough to say. I recently read an article about Foles' struggles in preseason. He's not a good preseason quarterback at all if you actually look at the stats in the preseason for him. But the way things are going, I'll agree with you on that, as hard as it is.
I mean, just in regards to that chemistry piece you brought up, it has to vote in Foles' favor. Yeah.
If Nick Foles can play like he can and like he did in that Super Bowl run and gain that chemistry with Allen Robinson, he's an unstoppable quarterback at the end of the day. I mean, he beat Tom Brady out. He beat Case Keenum, who was looking like a monster back in the day. He had that amazing run, and if he can do that here in Chicago, I'd be all for it. At the end of the day, he's a Bear.
Absolutely. So one last thing before we close this one off, and I hate to talk about the pandemic, but in regards to what's going to happen in the preseason, you have to bring it up. Obviously, we know right now the United States does have a ton of cases, going up about 40,000 a day, 3 million cases total. Parth, do you think a preseason will happen? Do you think we'll get 2 games out of it?
I really hope so. If the preseason gets canceled, you're looking at like delay of the season starting and all that mess that could come up. I really hope the NFL can get it together. Maybe they do some hub city type of thing where they keep all games at four cities or something like that, so to reduce traveling. The NFL will have to figure out how they're going to do, because I really do think it'll be tough to have 32 teams, 32 cities, 32 stadiums to keep playing at, especially through this pandemic, because if players are going to catch it regardless. It's just how it's been going. And if like a star player gets the coronavirus, like Patrick Mahomes, you got Mahomes sitting out for 2 weeks. It also hurts the NFL's viewers in Kansas City at the end of the day, which the NFL does not want to happen at all. So I think for them to do something, it'll have to be very strict, like the NBA's created that bubble. It's really hard to create a bubble with the NFL because it's much bigger.
And you're not in the middle of the season, like the NBA only has half of the teams there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I do think the preseason will happen in some form. Even if we just get one game in there, that would give the Bears a chance to throw in Mitch in the first half, Foles in the second half, something like that, in order just to see how it plays out in a real-time game. But that being said, the NFL can afford to push back the season a month if they need to. That's what NBC Sports' JJ Stankovic told me a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see what happens as this progresses. But that being said, thank you guys for tuning into episode number 55 of Uncut. You heard our thoughts on the preseason, whether or not it's going to happen, how it affects both the quarterbacks. And we're heading into the midst of it right now, and we'll see how this all plays out. So thank you guys for tuning in once again. If you want more content from us, do us a favor. Head over to bearddown.com. We're posting articles a couple of times a week there. It's a little bit of a dry time right now, but that being said, we're doing our best. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter and follow the podcast at Beared Down. You can also find the links to Parth and I's social media pages down in the description. Parth Shaw, any plans for this weekend, buddy?
I don't think so. Nothing yet. I think I'll just be at home chilling. Not hoping to not catch the virus, as it's starting to spike up here in Illinois again, which sucks to hear. But
yeah, I'm heading to Indianapolis, so guess I'll have to go drive by Lucas Oil Stadium and think about when the Bears face them Week 4 in Chicago. I guess we don't know who will be starting at quarterback in that game, but it should be a very interesting one. Bears fans, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm pretty sure you're hearing this on Saturday, so if so, have an incredible weekend, stay safe, and as always, bear down. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.